here's the plan for today. We'll read and record. Your essay rewrites are due, so I'll take those in from those of you who have them. Today's reading workshop, we'll do a check-in. Our mini lesson today is going to be on poetic devices in novels. So you're all reading a novel or a biography, and there are poetic devices in there. So we're going to have a mini lesson on that, and then in workstations, you'll find those literary devices.
Since it's a circle, it's not like a usual classroom. You walk in and they're like all in rows, and I don't know, when you walk in here, it's more like everyone's more involved. And
it's more interactive.
Yeah, it's more interactive. You can like see everyone can see you. I mean, it might be more nerve-wracking to some people who don't like to speak, who don't like eyes on them when they talk, but it's like some people just need to understand like they're in the same spot that you are.
Well, I find because you're in the circle, like it's like you said, like everybody's involved, but normally the first part of the class it's like discussion and questions, and then we would go into workstations when we work. So it's kind of like the distinction between when you can talk and when you're supposed to be working, I guess. I feel like it keeps people interested because, I mean, they're always looking to the center where like things are being explained. Like you can't just kind of sit at the back of the room and not pay attention. You're almost forced to, and then when you do that, it just becomes habit, and it's interesting.
It doesn't feel like a classroom. It feels like, well, it's a classroom obviously, but it doesn't feel as much of like a classroom, because like, if you're with a bunch of friends, you all got chairs, you're gonna sit down in a circle. And this feels like you're just hanging out with a bunch of friends, and we're all just talking. Until Thompson's like, all right, everyone listen up, and then we can actually do some class discussion and stuff, and then people will get like more comfortable talking, because it's like, it feels more like you're just kind of hanging out, and then you got to listen to someone for a few minutes, and then you get to go back to hanging out and listen and hang out.
Yeah, like I feel like a lot's accomplished when you come in and have a class, but it doesn't really feel like you're being pressured, like, to work.
Yeah, you're not being
very
pressured.
fast. Like, typically classes are kind of broken down to like the part, like half where the teacher's like giving a lesson, and the half where you're working. So I mean, you would take your notes, and then it would be time to go in workstations, and then you would just kind of go by yourself and work. Because like I feel like teachers kind of like battle between like having group desks or having like single rows, like Riley said. But like I feel like there's almost like a happy medium between the two.
When you're not working, you're next to people, and you can like, not socialize, but like, you have that connection between people, and then when it's time to work, you just work. When you sit down, it should feel like four walls drop between, like close you in and just isolate you from everyone, and just work. Teachers should do this if they're very enthusiastic and involving, just because they know that they have everyone's eyes all the time.
I taught for 7 years, and I was ready to leave teaching, and I went back to school and did a master's in literacy, and had that year to rethink what worked and what didn't. And that's when I read a few books and thought, well, I'm going to start to use this model, and I love it. I love teaching now, and I have since I've made that shift. I find I'm better able to reach those students that maybe would be disengaged. This seems to work for them. When the elementary teachers would come in, at first I was nervous, like, will this be worthwhile? And but many of them have said that they were able to sort of adapt what they saw here to their age group. And that's, for me, the fun part is somebody can come in, sit with me for the day, go away, and if they feel like it might be an approach that would work for them, try it. But then if I like the follow-up visit, where I go and sit in with them. And so yeah, there's been a part of that. If you want students to respond to each other, and if you want them to, it's a big ask sometimes to read what you just wrote to a peer. You need that relationship focus. And I'll tell them, you don't have to be friends with everybody in here, but you do need to respect everyone and be kind to everybody in here. And I find most high school students, that makes sense to them. At the core, most of us want just kindness and respect from each other. And if you create a room that's the expectation, you'll get it. Obviously, my room's set up in circle. I want discussion to be part of our course, but there's a time to discuss, and there's a time for you to be independently learning. And if that has to be a little bit of a struggle, then that's okay, and that just fits my teaching style. I think that there's value in students not always asking a peer for help. So when they're in their workstations, that is time where they write and they think, and if they do need help, then that's when I'm coming around. Near the end of the semester, I always ask them, like, what works about this and what doesn't, and they'll say, I feel the workstations work well because I know there's a time to discuss and there's a time not to, and the only time we are allowed to have a desk is when you need us to be quiet and get our work done. So that becomes, and students will say, you know, this is one of the classes where I can stay very focused during my seat work or whatever you want to call it. So if it's skills that you want students to be able to learn and demonstrate, then creating an atmosphere where students are comfortable being wrong in front of each other and sharing their work with each other as a reflective part of the process helps. So I think one of the challenges I love is, like, what do you teach and how can we take what the curriculum is and what you're already doing and just make it more relational, or design your classroom setup in a way that helps you do what you're already doing quite well, but maybe frustrated that only 20% of your students ever really talk. The foundation of relationships is something I've learned through teaching that needs to happen first, and I think I always valued that, but when I explicitly set things up into Circle, it just facilitates my acknowledgement that relationships are important. I think this helps facilitate that. And the students will say they know each other. And I think a line I always say is, I've always had good relationships with my students, I think. I think as teachers we do, but I've noticed a huge difference in their relationships with each other and with the curriculum.